My name is John Woods. I'm the Executive Director of the Allston Brighton Community Development Corporation. I'm very grateful that you've joined us tonight in helping us celebrate our 40th anniversary. I'm joined as a co-host with my co-host tonight's program by the President of the Board of Directors, Amelia Youngstrom, who you'll be hearing from shortly. Meanwhile, I wanted to do a couple of quick housekeeping activities to help make the virtual celebration work as efficiently and pleasantly as possible. First, I want to remind people to keep their mics muted. Also, on an as-needed basis, use the translation services, and of course, donate to our silent auction items. Information on the translation and silent auction items will be on the chat box. So, as we prepared for this event, I can't help think of last year's All Bright Night event that was held on a cold evening in November over at WGBH facilities. As we gathered with the many friends and supporters who joined us that evening, there was no way we could imagine that our next All Bright Night would be held through this thing called Zoom, because we aren't allowed to gather due to a dreadful health epidemic gripping not only our neighborhood, our city, but our entire country, along with most of the world. I'm sure this isn't the first time you've all pondered the bizarreness of our current situation. Let us hope that when we look back on this next year, it will be a much better place with all these difficulties behind us. Meanwhile, let us focus in on the task at hand, which is to acknowledge that 40 years ago, a group of concerned members of the Allston Brighton neighborhood took the necessary steps to create an organization that aimed to improve the quality of life for a wide variety of people who called Allston Brighton home, and to help welcome those who wanted to join what was and continues to be a vibrant community. As we move on to the planned event this evening, I want to turn the screen over to our board president, Amelia Youngstrom.
Thanks, John. And good evening, everyone. It is so great to see so many familiar faces. Thank you for joining us. As John mentioned, my name is Amelia Youngstrom, and I have the good fortune of being the current president of the board of directors. I think I share with many of you a profound gratitude for the tireless efforts of those board members who have volunteered their time and expertise over the past 40 years. I also want to personally thank all of the board members of the current board of directors for their time and effort that they're putting in now to ensure the continued success of the organization. I know you will be meeting a few of our board members throughout the evening, but I want to remind everyone that the Allston Brighton CDC exists because your friends and neighbors have made the commitment of time and effort to keep the organization going. One thing that is constant about the Allston Brighton neighborhood is that it is always changing. Despite the constant change, organizations and individuals come together to support and enhance the efforts to help improve the lives of so many people who call this place home. That support continues today. And I urge you to take a look at the long list of donors that have helped not only to make this night possible, but have played an important financial role in keeping the operations of the Allston Brighton CDC going. Thank you to all of our donors. As many of you may remember, the auctions held at previous All Bright Nights were really the highlight of the event. Sadly, we have to do things a bit differently this year, but we still hope that this will be a fun activity for all of you. Please take a look at some of the excellent items available to purchase by clicking the link in the chat function. Bidding will end once our event wraps up, so don't miss the opportunity. As Jane McHale reminded us last year, it is for a very good cause. Now, I would like to take a moment to introduce our staff who make the programs and development activities possible as we strive to fill the mission of the Allston Brighton CDC. You have already met our wonderful executive director, John Woods, who has been in the role for just over 2 years now. As many of you know, John was the real estate director of ABCDC between 2001 and 2007. So he has some understanding of the history of the Allston Brighton CDC and the legacy that has played such an important role in its present success. I'm sure John will agree with me when I say he is very fortunate to have a dedicated and talented group of individuals working with him. We would like to show you a pre-recorded introduction of some of the key staff at the Allston Brighton CDC, and then I'll turn it back over to John.
Hello, my name is Megan Monson, and I am the Homeownership Programs Coordinator at Allston Brighton CDC. I've had the pleasure of being at the CDC for 2 years now, and I'm grateful for the generosity and support of everyone in the community. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and congratulations to the CDC on its 40th anniversary.
Hi everyone, my name is Shanta Tar, and I'm the Resource Development and Communications Manager here at the CDC. I want to thank everyone for coming out to All Bright Night 2020 and for celebrating our 40th anniversary with us.
Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Palayo and I'm the new Resident Services Coordinator for the Allston Brighton CDC. I just wanted to thank everyone for joining us tonight and helping us celebrate our 40th anniversary, and I hope you all have a great time.
Good evening, Allston Brighton. My name is Jason DeRoche and I am the Manager of Community Building and Engagement at Allston Brighton CDC. Over the last 6 years, I have had the pleasure of working with many of the great neighbors, businesses, and organizations being recognized this evening, and I am proud to have had the opportunity to be a part of Allston Brighton CDC's 40 years of community building, and look forward to contributing to at least a part of the next 40 years.
I'm Caitlin Robillard. I'm the Real Estate Development Manager here at Allston Brighton CDC, and I just wanted to say thank you to everybody for joining us for our 40th anniversary.
Hi, I'm Rachel, Resident Services Manager for the Allston Brighton CDC.
And I'm Molly, Manager of Homeownership and Counseling Programs.
Well, hello again, everybody.
Thank you so
Amelia.
much for joining us for All Bright Night.
It's nice
And happy
to see
40th
the
anniversary,
video of
Allston Brighton
staff,
CDC.
And I guess I want to underscore again the important role they play in making everything possible, and very proud of them, and kind of missed the opportunity to have them all up here, but at least you got a little glimpse of them there. And before I move on, I want to acknowledge that one key person who wasn't on the staff video, that person is our Finance Director, Temi Breyer, who has been with the organization for at least 12 years now. Temi plays such an important role in so many ways in keeping the Allston Brighton CDC moving along, and I'm very grateful for all her hard work and dedication. You know, as I introduce the next segment of the presentation, it helps to reinforce the crucial role that Temi plays in creating and maintaining a fiscal structure for the organization. It is that very fiscal structure that is often overlooked as one of the most important roles of the CDC plays in helping to administer efforts and programs designed to improve the lives of the people that our organization touches. Perhaps one of the best examples of that is the fiscal structure that ABCDC provides for some of our other important community partners. There are two entities that operate within our fiscal structure that I would like to now introduce. The first one became a member of the family just recently, just this year. To tell you a little more about that, I would like to introduce Helen Conley of the Allston Brighton Substance Abuse Task Force. Helen, take it away.
Thank you very much, John. And I want to say a special thank you to John and Amelia for inviting me to say a few words this evening. It means a lot to have an opportunity to talk a little bit about the work of the Allston Brighton Task Force, but also to be able to thank you for welcoming the Allston Brighton Task Force as a family member at the CDC, and to be the recipient of services. And yes, I would say that, I agree wholeheartedly that the fiscal department, and as Temi runs it, and is wonderful. And we've had a great start with the CDC, and I thank you kindly. My name again is Helen Conley, and I'm the director for the Allston Brighton Substance Abuse Task Force. I have been a Brighton resident. I have worked as a nurse at St. Elizabeth's Medical Center for many years. I have worked at the Good Samaritan Hospice Program, which was in Allston. And when I went up to St. Elizabeth's back in 2016, looking for a part-time nursing job, I got recruited to be the coordinator for the Allston Brighton Substance Abuse Task Force. It wasn't something that I wanted to do at the time. I wanted to go back to nursing. I said yes, though. And now 14 years later, I'm still with the organization. So who knew? I absolutely love the work that we do, because it is very powerful in that, you know, our mission is about very simply to prevent substance use and other behavioral health issues amongst youth and adults in our community. For many of you who are on the call, you've been our partners, you know, for many years. We can't function solo because there are only 2 staff members. We do rely on the partnership component in the collaborative work in the community to implement our strategies. You've probably seen and heard about the drug kiosk, the drop-off kiosk box at Station 14. That was our role with the Boston Public Health Commission to reduce the amount of prescription drugs that are in the community. And that's still standing today and still used. Also, we have worked for many years with the Walk for Recovery, and many of you have been in attendance at that great walk. Kevin Honan, I don't think you've missed one, and I'm very grateful to you. And there are so many other residents who have consistently participated and or donated and or encouraged residents, friends, neighbors, families to come and walk and to be part of a community that recognizes and supports the disease of addiction and works together to help to prevent and reduce issues around substance use in that way. We have a vibrant and wonderful youth coalition. These high school youth receive stipends for their work with us, and they in turn run a peer-to-peer education program whereby they conduct workshops on substance use prevention, coping with stress, self-esteem, all kinds of wonderful topics that really get to the heart of why a young person may resort to substance use to begin with. This is where our focus is. We want to look at the risk factors and reduce the negative factors that influence youth's interest and use of drugs. So it takes a village to do our work. It's not just 2 staff people. It is the partnerships, as I mentioned, but it's also the willingness of the general community to recognize the importance of substance use prevention. We hear a lot these days about treatment and recovery, and of course, those are very important aspects on the continuum of care. But prevention, I'm going to give it a huge shout out because it can't be left behind. It's a very important component in approaching any issue that involves substance use and behavioral health issues amongst our youth. I could go on and on, but I won't because I have time limit. And I just wanted to end by congratulating the CDC on their 40-year anniversary. I would also like to thank the partners who are in the room or on this Zoom meeting who have worked with us in the past. Look forward to more of that work. And I want to again thank the CDC for their services thus far. A great group of people. I have enjoyed immensely your hospitality. Thank you.
Thanks, Helen. Right back at you. We're so happy that you're here. Next, I'd like to introduce another key person representing what has become a very important organization here in Allston Brighton. The Allston Brighton Health Collaborative has played a crucial role in promoting and advocating around health issues affecting the residents of Allston Brighton for a number of years now. As many of you know, the Health Coalition has performed an incredibly important role in response to the COVID-19 crisis. I have been continuously impressed with our next speaker, whether she's advocating for more community mitigation resources, coordinating the network of nonprofits and service providers, or making sure the farmers market is in full operation. Anna Leslie is a force to be reckoned with, and I'd like to ask Anna to say a few words.
Thanks, John. I'll take that any day. Great to see all of you. Congratulations to the CDC, and really wonderful to see familiar faces and names who I haven't been able to see in many months. So just really appreciative to be here tonight. And I want to echo my appreciation for this staff. I do not work for the CDC, but I get all the benefits of working for the CDC as a fiscal sponsor. So what that means is I don't need to have my own HR, my own budgeting supports, my own health insurance. I am covered through the CDC. So I, as a one-person organization, can focus on the work. And folks like Temi handle that stuff for me, and it is incredible. And the Health Collaborative, quite literally, would not exist without the support of the CDC. So as Helen said, it really does take a village. And I think so many folks on this call tonight have been a part of that village and are in that work. And so really just want to show that appreciation, that although, you know, we're not officially a part of the CDC, really still do benefit from that structure and that work. And want to just throw it back over to you and say thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Anna and Helen. It is great to see the Allston Brighton CDC family grow, and we are very proud of the important work being done by the Allston Brighton Substance Abuse Task Force and the Allston Brighton Health Collaborative. Now I would like to present a short video put together by Sean Tatar, who worked with our longest serving board member, Charlie Vasiliades, who has been a member of the Allston Brighton CDC since the beginning in 1980. Here's Charlie.
Well, I've actually lived here my entire life, which happens to be 63 years at this point. And I don't know if you can see behind me the house, but my parents bought this house when I was 2 years old. So in essence, all my memory life is in this location right here. Basically, well, as you know, 40 years ago in 1980, and if I got to give due credit, Pat McGuigan and Laney Furish, if there's anyone I could call founding mother and a founding father for the CDC, it's that couple. They were great. They had experience in either social work or, in Pat's case, planning. And a bunch of us sort of, I'd say, progressive activists kind of joined in. CDCs were a new concept back then, and I think the key thing behind the founding of the CDC was a recognition that instead of just being reactive fighting proposals or fighting, quote, bad things that were coming, things like a CDC gave us the ability to control our own fate. Because the very name of the group, a community development corporation, allows a neighbor to have control, to be proactive rather than reactive. And to me, I can say the foremost example of that, quite frankly, was the very first project, one of our very first projects, was the Oak Square School, which is my beloved school. I went there as a kid. And initially, as an example, the community got involved with the CDC as part of it, but others as well, being what I call reactive, holding community meetings when the city was going to close a school about what use did we want to see and, you know, how to prevent bad things from happening. But the CDC, by its very nature, was able to go the next step. We're working together with neighborhood groups like the Historical Society and local civic groups. We're, in essence, in the end, able to buy the building by getting public funding, other grant money, buy the building, turn it into housing. It was a way that the neighborhood could actually achieve a goal through the CDC, not just reacting, but actually being part of the solution itself. The original goals, as I said, was probably one of the overarching ones, was the fact that it was, again, giving, as I said, a community tool, if you will, so that we could achieve things through having that clout of the CDC. But specifically, not a huge surprise, we were very much into preserving and creating. In the early days, it was preserving existing housing, affordable housing, as well as creating. In terms of wanting to stay in the CDC, it's probably kind of echoing back to some of the earlier questions. CDCs and similar, Main Streets fit into this kind of concept as well. But that ability to be an economic tool, to have staff, to go after funding, to not just, again, I keep using this phrase, to be proactive, not reactive. I think it's important because, I have an ego. I want to be able to help shape my neighborhood, and I think a CDC is important for that. I guess if I can put a larger sort of macro goal, is I'd like to see the CDC really be the go-to or one of the key go-to organizations, that whether it's the city or the universities or developers, when you want to create, say, an interesting new housing program like a house bank, or if you want to create a new, say, green space program, or pick a goal that's of need to the neighborhood, maybe something with the schools. I'd like to see the CDC be thought of as, well, that's a community-based organization that can help make these things a reality, because it is community-based.
Thank you again, Charlie, for all the years of hard work and dedication to the Allston Brighton CDC. We are so grateful that you have played a continuous role in the organization, and we look forward to the important contributions that you will continue to make. To celebrate the 40th anniversary of the Allston Brighton CDC, we decided to acknowledge 40 individuals who have made a positive impact on the community within the last 40 years. This seemed like a pretty simple task at first, but we soon realized that there are so many people who have made a positive impact on the community, and we didn't know where to stop. So finally, we decided that when we announced the 40 people, we would have to remind the community that this is just the tip of the iceberg. We know we have left important people off of the list, but that doesn't mean their contribution wasn't important. We wish that the list could have been twice as long, but I'm sure you can agree that the 40 we picked are inspirations to the spirit embodied by the mission of the Allston Brighton CDC. So without further ado, I would like to ask a few of these people to say a few words. First, we will start with a video from Allston Brighton Heroes, Sister Pat Andrews and Baoling Kwong.
Good evening. I'm Sister Pat Andrews, a sister of St. Joseph, and for the past 21 years, director of the Literacy Connection, an adult literacy program sponsored by my religious community. The Literacy Connection assists our immigrant neighbors in strengthening their English language skills. At the request of our students, a citizenship course was added, and which to date has helped 166 of our students become U.S. citizens. There is something special about our Allston Brighton community. If it weren't for the dedicated volunteers who teach in our program, we would not be entering our 33rd year of service to the dear neighbor. The same is true of our collaboration and support. We, the neighborhood programs of Allston Brighton, offer this to each other. Looking at the list of all involved this evening, I know how blessed I am to be able to call so many friends.
Hi, I am Baoling Kwong. I work as a tenant organizer and housing advocate in the Chinese Workers Association for about 13 years. I was one of the lucky who was able to get an affordable home in Brighton about 6 years ago, where I now live with my family. I learned to be an organizer from my own experience of successfully fought against land increase in an apartment building in Chinatown with my neighbors. I learned to be a housing advocate because affordable housing should be a human right. We should have policies that support building more affordable housing. That's why I have been active to get my neighbors in Brighton to vote for people who should be partnered with us in the City Hall or the State House to fight for affordable housing for all. Housing is a human right. We should not feel lucky to get one. Thank you.
Next up, we are happy to introduce Etta Anderson.
Okay, I'm Etta Anderson, and I'm a longtime resident of Allston. I've been the director of Beam Project, actually from before its inception in 1982. It was a time when the world was going crazy and refugees and frightened people from troubled countries were making their way to Allston Brighton. They came from Southeast Asia, that is Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia, Central America, Iran, Hong Kong, Czechoslovakia, Afghanistan, Russia, Ukraine, and elsewhere. The program provided English instruction to help them get around independently. And I responded to individuals who sought my help to listen and help them see through some personal stressful situations. Changes have occurred over the years. The population and needs have changed, but Beam Project is still in operation for any adult who wants to learn English. Allston Brighton now has diverse, wide range, and even tailored programs for immigrants and refugees. But we, uniquely informal, take their overflow and walk-ins. We had settled down nicely with 3 groups of students when COVID-19 came and overturned the tables, but we are working around it. We have always been an all-volunteer program, so we are grateful for the many volunteers who have helped us, and also for places like the CDC that has offered us a place to operate with our programs. I feel personally rewarded when from time to time I run into past students who share how much the program meant to them. I didn't know that so little could go so far. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Etta. That was beautiful. We are grateful for all you do. So next I would like to introduce Wanda Velez. She is a current board member and she has prepared some remarks.
Hello, I am Wanda Velez and I am a board member and I am a longtime resident of Allston Brighton. I've lived here pretty much since I was about 5 years old, and I have an adult child, an adult son, who I raised in this community as well as a single mom. And I feel fortunate that being a single parent, I did it in this community because I had great organizations to help out, like the CDC and the West End House and several other organizations in the area. And how I first came to get involved with the CDC was through a program that still runs. It's called Tech Goes Home, which a parent and a child take together. It's about 10 weeks and it's 2 classes a week. And at the end of the program, you get a computer to go home. So that was my first event that I did with the CDC. And then I went on to do several others, like I was part of a Latino group. I was part of a program called Saving for Success. I have done the first time home ownership program. I have helped. So the Saving for Success, that helped me in a way that I was able to buy my son his first laptop when he went off to college. So that was a great program. That is also so you had to save a certain amount of money, and the program met, whatever amount you had to save, they gave you, they met it dollar for dollar. And we also, at the time, Allston Brighton was dealing with a bed bug problem. And we had the whole, pretty much, the way I remember it, the whole world was calling the CDC because the CDC had the best handle on this problem. and seeing as we are surrounded by colleges, that was the main issue of our bed bugs. And so so I have remained involved with the CDC because the CDC is constantly growing, and you know, there's always innovation at the CDC. They're always bringing the different programs to the community. As we know, not the same programs that were, you know, that were good 10 years ago aren't necessarily running now. And the CDC is never sitting with their hands crossed. They're always, you know, they're always moving with the times, and you know, they're always trying to bring new stuff to the community. And you know, they're trying for the community to know each other, to get together, and just it's a great organization. I'm just happy to have been in this area. I know there's many other CDCs, but I think that the Allston Brighton CDC by far is the best one. And yeah, that's it for my story.
Thanks, Wanda.
Thank you.
That was really nice, Wanda. I greatly appreciate your kind words, and we're glad that we were able to connect with you. And thanks, Amelia, for introducing those other inspirational individuals. I now have the pleasure of introducing to you a few more samples of these 40 individuals we've chosen. First up is a person who I've gotten to know and very much appreciate her energy and all the work that she does, Joanne Barber. Joanne, could you say a few words?
Sure, thank you, John. Hello, everybody. I'm Joanne Barber, and I'm the Executive Director at Charles Hugh Inc. We're the owner of Charles Hugh Residences, a beautiful 240-unit affordable housing development with a wonderful community center in North Brighton. And we also have a charitable fund that we use to support the work of the amazing community service providers in Allston Brighton. It was a long process to get the Charles Hugh redevelopment done, and it would not have happened, and the work of Charles Hugh would not be happening without the incredible leadership and support of our community elected officials, particularly Kevin Honan and Mike Moran, Mark Siomo, and so many city and community affordable housing advocates. It's what we all want to have going on in our community. I am really fortunate to work for Charles Hugh and its board of directors, one of whom you heard from earlier tonight, Etta Anderson. So not only is she doing volunteer work at the CDC, but she's been a longtime board member and chair of our charitable fund committee at Charles Hugh. But I am really so fortunate to work here in this community of committed and collaborative individuals and organizations, many of whom you've honored tonight, and many, many more who are community heroes to me because of the time and dedication and long hours they put in to lift up and support our neighbors. We are experiencing unprecedented development in our neighborhood, much of it unaffordable to families, and at a time when many of our households are worried about losing their housing. We have the obligation to speak up loudly and collectively about the growing need for safe, healthy, high-quality, affordable housing. I will continue to do that in partnership with the community and our dedicated elected officials to speak to the need for affordable housing on the impact advisory groups and community task forces on which I serve, and really to build on the work of the CDC and its 40 years of advocacy, built housing, resident engagement, and services. Congratulations for 40 years, and I look forward to finding more affordable housing to build out in the next 40. Thank you.
Thanks, Joanne. Again, you've done so much for the community and we greatly appreciate it. And you've also sort of brought up that interconnection between all our organizations and again, it sort of underscores the sense of community here. Next up is a person I've had the privilege of working with for nearly 20 years. First getting to know him as we put together what was a pretty complex transaction that ultimately became the Brian J. Honan Apartments. And then many times again, as he helped ensure the success of many affordable endeavors. So as I was saying about, and this was all sort of building up to introduce Kevin Honan, who is a true friend of the Allston Brighton CDC. Kevin, could you unmute your mic there? And
thank you, John. Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay, John, it was a pleasure to see all of the photographs of groundbreaking ribbon cuttings, because I was at all of them. You know, there's some longtime friends on this call. We have Jim and Helena, Sandy and Joe, Bruce and Diane, and so many other people who helped found this organization. My Uncle Charlie was one of the founding members there, charter members with Charlie Vasiliadis. What a wonderful history of service Charlie has to our community. And it's just extraordinary what you've been able to accomplish. My brother Brian also was involved. He coordinated your summer youth employment program and served as the chair of the housing committee on the Boston City Council. And we always feel such great pride driving by on Everett Street, seeing the apartments named after him. I want to thank your extraordinary staff, John, who are at all the meetings, Amelia, your board chair, for their commitment to our community. At the state level, we've obviously done some big bond bills. We just did a $1.8 billion bond bill, which Governor Charlie Baker signed into law in our neighborhood up at Jewish Community Housing, now called 2 Life. And we also have Deval Patrick signed a bond bill, $1.3 billion bond bill, that the CDC organized the event that was at the Brian J. Honan Apartments. The state has had an amazing partnership with the Community Development Corporation, the Allston Brighton CDC. You are the best in the whole state. There's no doubt about that. Many of my staff, my aides, have gone through your first-time home buyer program and have bought homes, including my aide, John Tobin, who became a city councilor in West Roxbury and then became a VP at Northeastern. So your program is just amazing. And I think Wanda said it before me. Wanda was talking about how you are an extraordinary CDC based so solidly in the community. And I'm reminded so much of the roots of this organization 40 years ago. 40 years ago, I, as a very young person, got to meet all those people who created this organization. And I'm so proud to be one of the people you're honoring with them. But I thank them for everything they've done for our neighborhood, all the wonderful people you're honoring. And many of my colleagues, I know Liz Braden's on the call, Mike Moran, Mark Siomo, number of the elected. So I would just say thank you for everything you've done for Allston Brighton. It is ridiculously expensive to live in our neighborhood, and you've made it affordable. 500 units of permanently affordable housing. We have a great deal of expertise in our neighborhood in the area of housing. Many of them have served on your board over the years. Many, like Brighton Lou and others, are so committed to our community and dedicated. So I look forward to working with you in the coming years, and I thank you for all of your service, John. You're a true expert on all housing matters. I go to you quite a bit for help. So keep up the great work.
Thanks, Kevin. Again, we're very grateful for all you've done and continue to do for the people of Allston Brighton, as well as the rest of the state. Next, I consider it another great privilege to introduce our current city councilor and longtime Allston Brighton CDC participant and supporter, Liz Braden. Liz has been tirelessly working to help us add and preserve our supply of affordable housing in Allston and Brighton, and has advocated citywide for many efforts needed to help preserve and improve the lives of the neighborhood residents. So I'm going to turn it over to Liz and ask her to say a few words.
Thank you, John. Thank you, everyone. So nice to see all these faces. And I'm so honored to be part of this wonderful celebration tonight, celebrating 40 years at the Allston Brighton CDC. It seems like yesterday that we were celebrating 30 years of the Allston Brighton CDC down at WGBH. That was 10 years ago. How did that happen? But anyway, in the meantime, there's been a lot of really great work going on. I first became acquainted with you folks at the CDC 23 years ago when Mary and I took the home buying course 101. And then we went on to purchase our home here in Oak Square. And then we participated in the Urban Wilds program. And we attended a program where they were talking about rain gardens. And we decided, oh, we could do that. So we went home and we put a rain garden in our backyard, thanks to the CDC. So it's been a tremendous resource in our neighborhood. And I'm so proud to be honored this evening, but also to join you all in celebrating this great work. I also want to give a shout out to Jason and all the volunteers who are constantly working to raise awareness about tenant rights, voter registration drives. Let's see, there's a whole lot. CDC and really the focus of the work on developing affordable housing and raising up the need for more affordable units when all this incredible development that's going on, just to get a higher percentage of affordability and with a wider spread of price points that more people can actually qualify for affordable housing in our neighborhood. And one of my issues is just really to try and ensure that we're building housing that families can live in. So I think I am so proud to be in this work with you all, and I'm happy to put my shoulder to the wheel and continue. And I look forward to the next 40 years of ongoing progress and an upward trajectory for all the folks in Allston Brighton and all the volunteers and the Allston Brighton CDC. Thank you so much for asking me to join you all this evening. Thank you.
Thanks, Liz.
Thank you, Councillor Braden and Representative Honan. I understand that our keynote speaker has arrived. So without further ado, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce the Congresswoman representing the Allston Brighton neighborhood and a person who has been working in Washington on our behalf at an extremely important and historical time. Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley.
Good evening, everyone. And congratulations to our honorees. And it's wonderful to be here seated at this virtual table, some of whom are being honored tonight with my colleagues on the municipal and the state level. You know, we find ourselves in an unprecedented moment. There is unprecedented hurt, and it really does demand and require of all of us unprecedented community. And despite these unprecedented hurts, I have been continually inspired and fortified by the collective care and the mutual aid that we have seen in the last 8 months. And we need to keep that going, you know, once we've weathered this pandemic and beyond. And so tonight it is my honor to be able to sit at this virtual table with you, to be in community. And of course, congratulations to the Allston Brighton CDC on your 40th anniversary. That is certainly a milestone of an achievement. And we know that the most effective nonprofits, you know, funny story, I had a colleague visiting from somewhere else, and they said, you know, it often feels like in most places, in most districts, that the business community really runs the district. But in your district, it seems that the nonprofits run the district. And so I'm proud to say that we have some extraordinary pace-setting nonprofits in the Massachusetts 7th, and the Allston Brighton CDC is chief amongst them. And the reason why you're effective is because you are so rooted in community. And so I want to thank the ABCDC for being a champion for the Allston Brighton communities. I've had the privilege for a long time of knowing your good work and being a partner, you know, first in my capacity as an at-large counselor, and now the humbling honor as your Congresswoman, to be a partner working closely with you to help create and preserve safe, clean, and affordable housing. I was so fortunate to be appointed to the Financial Services Committee. I serve on 2 committees and many subcommittees I don't need to enumerate here, but Oversight and Reform, which under this administration has kept me very busy, and certainly the Financial Services Committee under the leadership of Chairwoman Maxine Waters. And I wanted to serve on that committee so much because the Massachusetts 7th is one of the most diverse, dynamic, and vibrant districts in the country. It is also one of the most unequal. And those inequities and disparities and those racial disparities and injustices were not naturally occurring. They were created by policy and codified, over and over again in practices like redlining. And so one of the reasons why this is one of the most unequal districts in the country has everything to do with housing policy. And that's why I wanted to serve on the Financial Services Committee because of the work that we do, certainly on banking and monetary issues, which are directly tied, but everything from redlining and housing and homelessness and student debt, again, which is also, a tied, consumer protection, all of these things. So housing is a fundamental human right, and it is really foundational to the building of healthy communities. And it's also foundational, just quite literally, to our country, which is why I'm so excited that something that I've been fighting for a long time in partnership with advocates happened during this pandemic, and that is in our infrastructure bill for housing to be included in the definition of infrastructure. So ABCD, you continue to be a leader in this space. I'm honored to be able to work alongside you as we celebrate 40 years, and as the theme has been throughout this 40 more years. And it's really why it's so important that, if we want to have those 40 more years of your being rooted in community and your critically important advocacy, that we can't let up. We can't allow this pandemic, and especially given the impact on households and on the most basic needs, including shelter that this pandemic has had, we can't allow that to hinder our ability to mobilize and to do the work of being in pursuit of a fairer, more just, and equitable world. And so, as you all know, this month, our best in the nation eviction moratorium expired. We're all bracing for a looming eviction tsunami. This pandemic has really only laid bare and further exposed and entrenched these inequities. But to be clear, these disparities existed before the global pandemic, but you all know that. And so you were fighting this fight before the pandemic. That fight continues even in a more robust fashion. We have got to continue to fight for affordable housing. Now, look, I know that I'm preaching to the choir, but the reason I do that is because I need the choir to sing that so that people understand that housing is a human right. COVID-19 has made it absolutely clear that housing is also a critical determinant of health. The Massachusetts 7th has been the hardest hit district within our Commonwealth. This is a district that is 53% people of color, 40% foreign born, nearly 40% single female headed households. So not only disproportionately impacted by the economic hardship wrought by this pandemic, but also by higher rates of infection, hospitalization, and death. And that has everything to do with the comorbidities of structural racism and unequal access to healthcare. So we knew that those communities would bear the brunt, low income and historically marginalized communities. And so housing is a critical determinant of health and wellness. It has got to be a part of the conversation about how we make our communities more resilient, how we ensure that we have both a resilient recovery in the midst of this pandemic, but also that we economically recover, and that recovery is one that is equitable. For many residents in the 7th Congressional District, housing was already a stress on their financial well-being. And for too many, their first thought of the day after the stay-at-home order was, how am I going to pay the rent? America's housing market is built upon a foundation of discriminatory policies and practices, from the theft of land, to redlining, to overtaxing households, to predatory lending, all of which has put home ownership out of reach for far too many families, especially Black households. And I cite that because we are in the midst of 3 pandemics: the coronavirus, the economic hardship that it has wrought with unprecedented food insecurity, unemployment, and again, many families on the precipice of eviction, but also the only thing COVID-19 could not kill: systemic and structural racism. And so in this moment of national reckoning, we have to be very pointed in acknowledging, again, the role that policies have played in creating 2 Americas. And because African Americans did not have equal access to the GI Bill, and because of draconian practices like redlining, it has made it harder for Black families to build generational wealth through home ownership. And so now we find Black home ownership at an all-time low, the lowest it's been since the FHA was actually introduced. So according to a study by the Boston Federal Reserve, Black families in Boston have a median net worth of just $8. And again, Black home ownership rates are at a 50-year low as redlining and housing discrimination persist. So I know folks may be tired or fatigued by these draconian data points, but what's more tiring is the people that are living that. So we have to do something about it. If we want people to live in a healthy, safe, stable environment, we must provide affordable housing, and not just during a pandemic. So now more than ever, we need ABCDC, thank you, Kevin, for your leadership, to do the hard work of empowering disenfranchised communities. Together, we can help families buy their first home and really change the trajectory of their lives. We can make sure every person knows their rights and is empowered to speak up for themselves. And we can help families leverage the assets they do have so they can build the future that their families deserve. ABCD, you get this. And for the last 40 years, you have got it done, and you have stood in the gap, and we thank you. And we are indebted to you. And I pledge my continued partnership with you on this social justice issue, because housing is a human right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ayanna. That was great. We really appreciate hearing from you. Amelia, would you like to maybe circle back to?
Thank you too, Amelia.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you all immensely. All right.
You too.
Thank you, Representative Pressley. That was incredible. Very, very inspiring. So I want to take a moment to just do a little housekeeping and remind you all that this event is a fundraiser. We need a little, we always need additional financial support to keep our mission going. So first is to remind everyone about the auction. It's still going, but there's just a few minutes left. So take a look at the items there and please bid on something that appeals to you. Also, you can always donate to the Allston Brighton CDC in any way that you can. No amount is too small. For those of you interested in donating in a more substantial way, you can make a contribution using community income tax credits. These CITC contributions provide us with the bulk of our operating resources, so they are very important. This is a state program where any contribution of 1,000 or more will provide you with a state tax credit equal to 50% of your CITC contribution. So we hope that if it's within your means, you will consider this important initiative as you think about your year-end charitable contributions, because 2021 is just around the corner. For banks or realtors or anyone who is involved in the home buying industry, we also ask you to consider sponsoring a home buying class. And finally, you can contribute to the CDC beyond just donating or contributing financially. And we encourage your involvement by getting more involved in our committees or expressing interest in the board. And a lot of these opportunities are outlined on our website, so please take a look.
Thanks, Amelia. That's great stuff. And again, I'd echo what Amelia said. It's very important for us to keep this organization going. I've been getting some text about some folks that have joined us that I wanted to acknowledge. First, City Councilor Michelle Wu. I understand Senator Sal DiDomenico is also on with us. We're grateful to both of you. Kevin also wanted to point out that his predecessor, Tom Gallagher, is on the call, and Tom, we're happy that you're here. I also got word that Mike Moran's available. So Mike, as one of the members of the 40 that we picked, we'd like to give you another shot at saying a couple of quick words.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Can everybody hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Tom Gallagher. Wow. You know what? That is amazing that Tom Gallagher is here. You know, for those of us who have been around Allston Brighton for a long time, Tom Gallagher is a throwback to a progressive before there was the term progressive. So, you know, I'm grateful he's here. And when I think about Tom Gallagher, I think about Kevin Honan. I think about the progressives back in the day that were what made them progressive is housing. To be clear, it was housing, and it was affordable housing, and it was what the CDC core belief is, which is that every person should have an ability to live in a community that they choose and be able to afford that. And, you know, that's when I think about the CDC and I think about Charlie Vasiliadis back in the day when the CDC first started, and I think about the Oak Square School and what that meant back in the day. It was about affordability. It was about people living in the community that they wanted to live in. Not so much that they could afford, but the community they wanted to live in. And that's when the CDC, when I think about it, that's what it has meant to Allston Brighton. It has kept people in our community that by all other circumstances would be priced out. And I think that's important to repeat. The CDC, the Allston Brighton, they have kept people in our community that, but for them, would have been priced out. And that is what is great about this organization. And that is what I'm thrilled to be here tonight and celebrate that. And I want to thank everybody tonight for all that they've done, both for this event and for the overall mission of the CDC. I appreciate that so much. And thank you, and keep up the good work, and we'll always be here to help you.
Thanks a lot, Mike. I appreciate that. And again, hearing from all these folks here, and again, they're all part of a long history of making positive things happen, and we're so grateful for them. We're actually heading into the home stretch where we've actually gone over our time, believe it or not. And Amelia and I would like to thank all the presenters for taking the time to offer your thoughts and participation. For all those other 40 people on the list that we didn't actually hear from, we're eternally grateful for the contributions that you've made, and we want to thank you for that. And for the organizations that we've highlighted on the list of 40 impactful organizations, we offer you our sincere thanks.
Yes, I want to echo John. Thank you to everyone who participated in this event tonight, and everyone who continues to work to make Allston Brighton a more inclusive place for everyone. So just some technical things to go over. The auction is closing very soon, so get your last bids in there. After it closes, you will be contacted by a member of the ABCDC staff to figure out pick up and everything like that. So before we say goodnight, I would like to ask one of our board members, Michael Helms-Mortel, to give a toast.
Hello all. I would like to propose a toast to the Allston Brighton and Allston Brighton's Community Development Corporation's 40th anniversary. Here's to 40 more years and then some. Cheers.
Thank you.